attending or following the Synod of Bishops in Germany?
I'm personally not paying too much attention to it. And the reason for that is this. One, it's in Germany, and I'm not. Two, without being uncharitable, many of the things that recently have been coming from Germany have been, we'll say, controversial at best. And it tends to get me fired up in a negative way. And I don't like to do that when I don't need to. So I intentionally try to avoid things that I can't change that are going to make me unhappy as I look at them.
And I agree with all that, but I just read before I got here. Apparently it's obviously connecting, it's drawing worldwide attention with cardinals and bishops extremely upset and irate. And some are even starting to talk about another schism.
Well, hopefully another schism doesn't happen.
They may be, so we may have some more suggestions as that becomes more newsworthy.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you know, as things happen, we'll address them so that people know what the church's teaching is, and we can try to work out people's confusion, because, and that's the problem with a lot of these things are, there's a lot of, how do I say it? There's a lot of stuff that gets put out into the news media that they don't understand, that they advertise and twist and contort to make it sound like something different. I'll give you an example. When they were talking about the Amazonian peoples, you know, the Amazon, they were talking about the church may consider married clergy as a way of dealing with the situation, and had all of these people saying, you know, oh, this goes against the Western tradition of celibate clergy, and we've had this for centuries and millennia, and they're going to ruin everything by having married clergy as part of the priesthood, and blah, 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 blah. The news media made this big shenanigans about it when it was in the news. And I'm laughing to myself thinking, we've had married clergy since the beginning. This isn't new. And they're like, well, what do you mean this is not new? They're going to have married men as priests. And I'm like, well, whenever you have an Episcopal priest who becomes Catholic, his wife becomes Catholic, he's a priest in the Catholic Church. What about these other situations, you know, like the Eastern churches, where as long as they're married before they're ordained priests, they're married and priests. And if the wife dies, they can't remarry. So when everybody in the news media is going wild about, as a concession to these Amazon places that are isolated, of ordaining men who are married, that are elders of these little villages or whatever, as a way of having some presence of the church in there, how can we have married priests in the church? And I'm thinking, well, we've had them for centuries. It's not the norm, but it exists. So when everybody's getting worked up about it, I'm like, why? If it's already there. There was a priest in Philadelphia that I was very good friends with. He just recently retired. He was an Episcopal priest who is working for the Ordinariate now. The Ordinariate are the Anglicans that abandoned the Anglican Church and became Catholic, and it was John Paul II who established the Ordinariate so they could continue their liturgical celebrations the way they're used to, with their Anglican prayers, the ones that are approved by the Church, not all of them. They're Anglican under the Pope, basically. He was married with 3 children that were college age or more. He was an excellent priest, but he was married, and it was approved by the church. That's my point. The news media blows everything into craziness, getting all these people worked up and fired up, but if they knew the church's teaching, they would just laugh at how remarkably unremarkable it is. And when it comes to responding to some of these other things, if we need to, we'll say something like in the bulletin or from the pulpit as we're responding to things. But it's one of those where the more we know about our faith, the less we're enticed by the clickbait news media that just basically wants to get people fired up over what they think is the faith.